Greetings, all. It's Dr. Bankhead here at the Struggle in Thinking Out Loud. I hope you're doing well today. And the topic of this video is I'm actually going to outline some steps to take to transform your life, or how to grow from being a victim to becoming a victor. That's right. So, number one is going to be practice gratitude. There's always something to be grateful for. Say you are an individual, a target of domestic violence with small children. You're fearful for your life and the life of your children. The situation in the home is horrid. Here's some things you can express gratitude for: having a roof overhead, heat, water, food, necessities, the ability to see, hear, smell, touch, and think. This may seem childish or maybe even stupid. Consider another perspective, one that may be of a benefit to you. There are people who are unable to feel heat or cold. Being unaware of the sensations, they stand the risk of frostbite or second and third degree burns. Some people live without running water and electricity, even here in the United States. There are no indoor toilets. My grandmother had an outhouse and a well that we had to pump water from. And then we had to bring the water into the house for bathing or washing dishes. And the outhouse was an experience, honey. That pine saw mixed with the smell of natural essences, shall we say, does no benefit to the pine. No, not at all. Anyway, I learned from a woman in Nigeria that in Nigeria it's illegal to have outhouse. Mm-hmm. They all have indoor plumbing. But that's not the story we've been told about Africa. No, sir. No, sir. We had people swinging from trees in the jungle. Yep, that's what they told us. Lies, all of it. Mm-hmm. Yes. Anyway, back to the topic on hand, as I said, the rambling in. Homeless people are in nearly every community. I know in one location I lived in, there were known to be homeless people living in the woods behind the Walmart. It was known that they were there, but the idea that there were homeless people in that community was a surprise to many, especially those that moved into that community, because it was considered to be somewhat affluent. But as I said, there are homeless people in just about every community. So if you have a roof over your head, that is something to be grateful for. I myself have been homeless. I'm grateful that I was able to stay off the streets, and I was housed by an acquaintance, and I'm grateful for that. I'm forever grateful that I did not have to stay on the street. Nevertheless, I was homeless with no fixed address. I had to use that individual's address, which was okay with me. And I'm very, very fortunate that I was able to stay off the streets and out of shelters. But I had that experience for 2 years. And it's nothing quite like it, I will say. Anyway, when I was exploring, considering, and thinking about what there could possibly be for me to be grateful for, because I was in the victim mindset, okay? I was fully experiencing the pains, the depression, the sadness, all comes from uh, the things that I was experiencing. And as a victim, I couldn't see how I could have a positive mindset and think about anything to be grateful for. So when I was exploring, considering, and thinking about what there could possibly be for me to be grateful for, I was so steeped in the victim mentality that it hurt to try to think about what there was to be grateful for. But it was then that I discovered a series on YouTube, Only Human, a documentary series produced by BBC, chronicling the activities of several 20-somethings who are now consumers as they visited the places where the products they were purchasing originated. This series was broadcast 4 years ago, and it's under Only Human, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, if you would like to research that. But there were 12 different videos, and I'll tell you what some of the topics were. Living with prawn farmers, that's shrimp. Surviving 90 degrees in tuna factories. Learn where your luxuries come from. Going knee deep in the middle of rice fields. Working in the largest slum in Asia for minimum wage. Joining the annual cotton harvest in India. And working for £3 a day in food production, working in Addis Ababa's leather industry, tough conditions of life in coffee plantations, and discovering impacts of e-waste in Africa. Okay, so they went where the shrimp that they enjoyed, fried shrimp, they went where the shrimp was farmed, and they lived the life of the prawn farmers. And then when they were surviving 90 degrees in the tuna factories, they were in the tuna factories where they got the whole fish and they cut it down, etc., etc. And it was 90 degrees in there. But they enjoyed eating that tuna. And then they were working in the largest slum in Asia. I believe that was one of the factory jobs for minimum wage. They wound up sleeping underneath the sewing machines. Joining in the annual cotton feast in India. They were out in the fields picking cotton. Then they were doing the food production. I think that was where they had the chickens. Working in the leather industry, that was where they went down to the abattoir and they watched them slaughter the cows and make leather. And then they were in the coffee plantations, picking the coffee beans and sorting through them. And the one I think that was, well, they were all rather disturbing. But this one was the impacts of e-waste in Africa, where they had the minor children in the mines mining for the materials that are used in the production of the cell phones, the batteries for the electric cars, etc., etc. I found that one to be disturbing because there were children involved. Anyway, this is Dr. Bankhead, Struggle in Thinking Out Loud. I'm grateful for I'm fully great, and I'll see you in the next video.